highly recruited out of high school. He's talked about it. He wasn't a blue chipper kind of guy, even though people knew who he was. Why did you make that decision when you had the opportunity to go with one of the other guys?
It really is pretty simple, or at least was pretty simple in our mind at the time. We had two guys that we were real comfortable with. We were going to try to come away with, and they were Luca and Trae. And I've said this 100 different times, but having guys that can facilitate, make plays for other pass, make shots, and can dribble. The dribble, pass, shoot, right? Those are the things we're looking for. And those two guys in that draft, were clearly, in our opinions, head and shoulders of everyone else. When Dallas came to us and wanted to make the trade from 3 to 5, we essentially knew that Luca would be off, but we felt like very strongly that Trae would be there. So we were still going to get a guy we liked. So we go to our analytics department and say, where do we project Dallas to be? And they projected him to finish 8th next year. So in our mind, we're trading 1 lottery pick for 2 lottery picks. Now, if our analytics department would have came to us and said, you know what, they're going to finish 24th, then the trade doesn't make any sense for us.
Right.
But the majority of the time, guys that have the largest impact in this league are guys taken in the lottery, guys taken in the top 10. So if we can take one of those picks and turn it into 2 of those picks, that's when it starts to make a lot of sense for us. So now you've got essentially 2 chances to get a franchise cornerstone type of player as opposed to 1 chance at getting it. Which it really was that simple for us.
And it sounds simplistic. It really is. But when you put the data in front of you and you go, okay, this is a no-brainer. We're getting a guy we like, and we're going to potentially get another guy next season, which actually happened, which gets us to this draft. I love what we did. Obviously, DeAndre Hunter, huge. The Cam Reddish thing, and I want to ask you about this because I talked to various scouts and college guys, and, we can keep it real on this podcast. Some people said he wasn't mentally strong. Like Cam sometimes will shut down on you. And I'm like, he's so talented. He can shoot the J like crazy. Did any of that concern you, some of the things that you heard in the process of scouting Cam Reddish? Because adding DeAndre Hunter and Cam to our nucleus of Trae and John and Kevin is strong. And then, some of the things that you did in trades already. But where were you at with Cam as far as the mental capacity? Because some people say in some of those games, even when, when they needed him, he maybe didn't show up big enough.
So, I mean, it's no secret he didn't have the year that he wanted to have last year at Duke. Cam's a guy that I think the first time I probably saw him play, he was 15, maybe 16 years old at a Nike Skills event in the summer. So, he's been on, quote unquote, the radar for a long time, on the map. He's not some guy who just kind of came out of nowhere. So you've seen this skill set. You've seen him dominate at his age group coming up. Last year, I think at Duke, a couple things. He obviously had 2 great teammates in Zion and RJ, and he was dealing with some injuries. Listen, college is tough for some kids, right? It's the first time in their life they've been away from home. Then that affects everybody differently, right? You get into a situation where you go from being the man, like clearly every team he's ever been on in his life, like, kind of, what do you want to do today, Cam, coach? And then you get to Duke, and all of a sudden it's not like that. And there's an adjustment period for kids sometimes. I think one of the things that I really thought would be a positive for Cam is he accepted that role at Duke. He didn't pout about it.
He didn't force the issue.
Yeah. Now, maybe he didn't perform as well as people would have wanted him to, but he wasn't a problem. Some guys, when they go from being the man on the team to saying, all right, you're going to kind of be off the ball now, that doesn't go well. They're a problem in the locker room. That wasn't the case at all with Cam. Like, he said, okay, we're going to run through Zion. We're going to go through RJ. He accepted his role. So that, to me, shows a level of maturity that a lot of kids don't have nowadays. There's a lot of kids that say, no, if I can't play, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. He didn't do that. Now, did he have a smooth year? No. But he's very aware of that. He's a very intelligent young man, and he knows that there's things he's got to do better as far as taking care of his body, eating better, getting in the weight room. He lost 15 pounds at Duke because of all the stress and all the pressure. So, he's very self-aware, and, we're just excited to get him out on the court here in the next few weeks in training camp and see how he performs for us.
The DeAndre Hunter move, did that fall into place perfectly for us? I mean, how did that happen?
Yeah, no, DeAndre's a guy, along with Cam. So all last year, we've already ranked him. We're in September, so we've already had our first college ranking for the 2020 draft. Those two guys, our scouting staff had in the top 5 all year long. So we were high on them from the beginning to the end. Obviously DeAndre's strength at Virginia was defense. I've said this a couple times publicly. I was at the Duke-Virginia game at Virginia, and DeAndre has to guard Zion all game long. Zion gets 12 points that game. Didn't go out and get 30 because now he's playing against somebody physically strong enough to guard him. DeAndre has that physical strength to do that. Then later in the year at the Virginia at North Carolina game, where the last 5 minutes of a close game, they put DeAndre on Kobe White, and he blocks 2 of his jump shots, one of the fastest players in the country, and he's got the ability to stay in front of that guard on the perimeter and block a couple of his jump shots because he's got the 7'2" wingspan. So now you've seen defensive versatility where you can guard one of the fastest players in the country and you can battle in the post with one of the strongest players in the country. And when you have that combination defensively, that's important. We talk all the time about dribble, pass, and shoot, but eventually, if we're going to be a real championship contending team, we need a guy that's going to go out there and take pride in and have the ability physically to guard the other team's best player. And so that's where he just stands out as, okay, that's an area of need for us moving forward. If we're going to get to where we want to go, we need a guy like that. Now look at the other side. The guy shot 44% from 3 from college. And I'm, as you sit here in my office and look out this window, we're about ready to watch our guys start warming up. The kid's got a really good shot. Like he's going to be a good NBA shooter. Now, does he need to work on his ball handling, his ability to get in the lane and finish? Sure. But it's not like he's a zero on offense either. No offense to my good buddy Bruce Bowen, who used to have to rebound it in Miami. Bruce turned into a good three-point shooter from the corners.
Yes.
But we're not starting from there. We're well ahead of that.
Right.
But we're hoping we get that sort of defensive tenacity as well.
Interesting. And Bruce, no offense. We love Bruce. Hey, it's Shared Stories here with Travis Schlenk, Hawks general manager on Dukes, with Carl Dukes here. And it's funny because we're talking about the Hawks and we're talking about the makeup of this team. That makeup, those pieces. So I'm gonna take you back now, okay? Just a second. What is it that you see? What is it about your ability to scout talent and see and make that final decision? You saw Draymond Green. Draymond, I think, was the 35th pick in the second round, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
People passed on him. People weren't seeing what you saw. What is it that you look for that you go, this dude can play? And, Travis, I've been in a bunch of gyms. I'll tell you a quick story. A buddy of mine, when I was in San Antonio, late 90s, the Tim Duncan draft. I had a buddy, they used to work out at a place called Incarnate Word College, and this is before they built their facilities. And it was just a little small Division III college, crappy gym, but the Spurs actually worked out there. And I had a buddy call me, and he says, hey, they're bringing in this kid named Tim Duncan. I really hadn't watched him. And they're talking about him being, maybe the number 1 pick. Why don't you come down to the gym? So I said, okay, cool. And I've told this story on air, years later, but I get to the gym. It's me, probably the guys that are working him out, and I think the general manager, maybe Pop was there. I'm not sure who was there at the time. And they're all on the floor, and I'm up in the rafters, right? So I'm in the gym, and I'm watching him. And I see him, left foot, drop step, right foot, drop step, off the glass. He gets the ball. They run the break. He gets the ball. He's running the break. He's 7 foot. And I'm going, wow. Like, it took me 5 minutes to realize his skills level, his skill set was where it needed to be. Now, I didn't know he'd be what he turned out to be, but it was an impressive workout, my point. And I probably stayed 15, 20 minutes and left. And then think about it, and then now you look back and you see the Tim Duncan career. What is it about it that guys that you watch and you see and you go, he can play? Because you've been in a lot of gyms and you go, he can play. He's really good. He's good, but not as good as I think he's going to be. What is it?
That's the hardest part of the job, right? So now we're looking at 18, 19-year-old kids trying to project what they're going to be like when they're 26, 27 years old, when they hit their peak physically. So I think a real important part of the job, like we put on a college game, we're watching. Anyone can tell, like, well, that kid's the best player on the floor. But what we're trying to do is project who's going to be the best player in 4 or 5 years down the road. So to me, what you have to take a look at is all the other stuff. What's driving the kid? What's the kid's motivation? For some kids, it's just getting to the NBA. And if your whole motivation is, I just want to get to the NBA, and you get your first NBA paycheck and you stop working, you're not going to be the best player 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Is your motivation to try to win a championship? Is your motivation to get the second contract? If your motivation is to get the second contract, the first 4 years, and I've seen kids like this. We had a kid when I was in Golden State that I coached that I would have bet money was going to be the hardest working kid for his whole career. He fooled us all. He got a $60 million and he shut it down. So the hardest part is trying to figure out what motivates these kids, what their end game is. And we want kids that are driven to be the best. Like, everyone talks about Kobe or Michael's fire, like trying to find kids with that motivation. Obviously LeBron now has got that fire where they're worried about their legacy.
It's true. I mean, that's something you don't get in an interview. Like if you're interviewing me and I'm going, I can't wait to be a Hawk. And, you're looking at me and you're going, okay, he's got all the skills. But you just don't know if a guy's going to shut it down like that. And with the money involved today, that's the other part. I mean, the old school guys, I love talking to the old school guys. They're like, dude, if I played today, the money is so insane and the league is doing great. But it's a big deal because, let's be honest, you get 30, 40, 50 million in the bank. It's hard not to shut it down. It's hard not to say, hey, I want to win multiple championships no matter how talented you are. So that drive is very difficult. A couple more things, man. I appreciate the time today. Travis Schlenk, I want to loosen things up a little bit. I want to ask you about this.
Oh, we're going to open up the cooler now?
Well, in a minute. We're going to give you something special to take home with you. And then I want you to tell me what you think.
It's going to make it to 3 o'clock?
It's going to be on. I want you to tell me what you think. All right. What does the NBA need to fix, if anything? I'll give you an example. The Anthony Davis saga, okay? And maybe this is something that general managers talk about privately. Hey, I want out. Okay. I want out. Okay. And then you give him the out. It's always been a players' league, but the trade demand thing that happens, is there something there that the NBA needs to fix? And that's an example. Or is there something you sit here at your desk and you go, what? You know what? I wish we could do this better.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from the first one. Those are topics that probably shouldn't be I shouldn't express opinions on publicly.
And Travis, I do want to protect you. I'm not trying to get you in trouble because you know what? You'll get that big fat ass fine and you'll call me.
Yeah.
So I do want to protect you.
They're working on increasing those fines too. So I'm going to be quiet on that one. But the things that I wish that we could improve in the league, I think that and I feel like we're at the forefront of this. When I say I'm talking about the Atlanta Hawks. But I think it's important that we invest in these players' health, both physical and mental, for where they are in their careers, right? So we're a great example of this. We have a bunch of 20, 21-year-old kids, 5 guys that are going to be hopefully a big part of our future, all underneath 21. I can say that for another week. John will turn 22.
He's getting old.
Yeah, and I said this earlier, like trying to tell those kids now, or really anyone, no one looks 5-6 years down the road, or very few people do that anymore, right? Especially young people. Like a long day is next week. Like you tell them to think long term, they think, okay, next week.
Next Twitter post.
But trying to explain to them that the work you're doing right now, the work you did this past summer, the work you're going to do throughout this season is to get us to where you're going to be when you're 26, 27 years old, when you're at your physical peak. Like, 26 to 30, that's when you're going to be at your prime. And it's the foundation we're laying now for your future success. That is one side of development. And with our young guys, but then we have older guys we have the oldest guy in Vince at 44, and allowing him to be able to maintain and maybe eke out another year, whether it's guys on the 1-year deal, expiring contracts. We have Evan Turner here who's been in the last month, so he can have a great year and hopefully get another contract. So as an organization, it's our job to extend